Hey everybody, this is Doug and Brad with the Darksliders podcast.
Hey, everybody.
This week we're kind of foregoing news. We'll do a small news segment, but primarily we kind of want to talk about. We did this on a few podcasts before, where we'll kind of do a discussion at large. And I think because of Street Fighter Five, there's been a lot of discussions about it's a good game, but doesn't have a lot of content, and we kind of want to discuss that on the podcast. We'll also be talking about games we play, and we'll do a little bit of news at the end with Microsoft because some of the stuff that kind of came out was pretty interesting lately with the HoloLens and the Gears of War. So to start off, we start off every podcast like this. We're talking about games we played. So Brad,
Hi.
yeah, you are on this podcast.
I am?
Shit, whenever I like run the podcast, I always feel like I talk too much. But when I run it, I actually feel like I talk way, way, way too much.
It's that high life talking.
It is that, yeah. I usually have water, now I have beer. This will go good, I'm sure. Anyway, so Brad, we've been talking about this game for quite a bit over a few podcasts. I kind of like that we did this. I feel like when you read reviews for games, you sort of get like somebody's kind of final impression, but you don't really get to see how they felt about the game through the course of playing the game. And since you were playing Xenoblade, we pretty much started recording, I think, maybe after you were a few hours in, and then you were
Yep.
like maybe 20, 30 hours in, and now you finished it. Yeah, and how I want to start the discussion is that on the very, very first one, I do listen to our podcast occasionally. I edit it, I listen to like each of our podcasts like 3 or 4 times just because I have to edit them and stuff. But you had when we started the Xenoblade conversation, you had said I want to go back and revisit our best of 2015 list because Xenoblade is the best game of 2015, which would indicate that it's better than Splatoon and Rocket League. So now that you finished it, is Xenoblade the best game of 2015?
I have not finished it.
I thought you finished it. I thought that's what we were talking about. This.
No, I said I'm done with it.
Oh,
Those are two very
that's actually
different
more
things.
interesting. Okay, I didn't realize that. When you were done with it, I
Well,
thought you were like finished.
somebody pays attention. No, I'm done with it. Yep, nope. Put it on the shelf.
Wow. So okay, yeah, what happened? Because you were very bubbly. I think. Well, I think last thing you were like, it's getting a little grindy.
It got real grindy.
So what happened? So what happened between your love of Xenoblade and now your?
No, okay. So to address your first point, still would probably be right up there with Splatoon, Rocket League, Until Dawn is one of my best games of last year, easily. For sure, still right there for the first 30 hours of this game alone. The issue I got to is it gets so grindy and just bogged down in useless side quests that I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. It was like, oh shit, okay, I gotta go run over here because this guy needs me to kill this monster. All right, I'll go kill that monster. Oh, look at that. That monster's 8 levels higher than me. Better go kill some smaller monsters. Okay, now I can kill the bigger monster. Which is cool, and the game has great monster design, and it does keep your interest just because of the design and the environments alone. But once you've gone through and explored everything, so as soon as I got to one of the there's 5 areas, as soon as I'd get to a new area, the first thing I did was, I'm just going to run around this place and see what kind of crazy shit is here.
Yeah.
But once you do that, it kind of ends up just being like, okay, I fast traveled to this point, I killed that monster, fast traveled back. Okay, fast traveled to this point, kill that monster, fast traveled back.
Oh, okay.
And when there's no real story progression, there's a little bit because you can do affinity missions, which are like your character side quests where you're trying to find out more about the characters you're with. There's a little bit of story that goes into that and just finding out about the backstories of some of these characters and how they connect with Earth before it was destroyed and how they connect with each other and fit into New Los Angeles, which is a little interesting, but it just ends up being the story missions I feel like are just gated off to make you grind and to make you go through things. Because the way the story missions work is you have to be a certain level to get there. And even if you don't, like the one I got, I don't remember I want to say it was chapter 10 or 11. I got to it and there was no level gain. I went, oh, okay, cool. So my grind is over. No more grinding stuff. I can just go through and play these there's 12 chapters. So I've got like 3 chapters left. I just play these last 3, no grinding in between, just run up to it. And then I did it. I did the whole thing, got to the boss fight, and the boss was 12 levels higher than me.
Oh, wow.
Or not 12. Maybe it was like 6. It was.
Yeah,
it
but
was
either
enough,
way, the levels in that like
en-
really matter when I played it. Like you could not
Yeah.
get a guy like maybe 2 or 3 levels ahead of you. Like that was still.
It was enough where I tried it like 6 times and got no closer than like half his health and went, Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to grind up like 3 levels, which doesn't take a ton of time, especially now I had all myself and all of my party members equipped with skells. So
Yeah.
it goes a little bit faster just because you can kind of pace yourself out and find certain spots that work better than others, and you kind of figure out the best way to gain experience. But just I don't want to, and I
Yeah.
am very much of the mindset of if I don't want to play a game, I'm not gonna play it.
Yeah, you know, it's really funny because when you were talking about this game initially, like I mean, the big thing I was pushing for, and you were talking about, we were talking about together, was how interesting the world is, and it's kind of sad because I feel like a lot of games do this. It's like you had this initial shock of like how interesting the world is, but like now you're saying it's like, oh, I just need to find areas to grind. It's not like you're finding areas to like, oh wow, there's that cool monster that's in that area. It's like, oh, this is a good pool to grind. This is a good thing to get my skills up. This is, it's just like, I feel like there's a lot of games that do that where you kind of after a certain point you start not appreciating the world for what it is anymore, and then you kind of just like get into the gaminess of it. And
Yeah.
the thing is, like, that feels like that could be fixed. Like there's like a Xenoblade whatever edition, like I feel like they could just lower the level of the boss or whatever, and you wouldn't have to do all that grinding stuff. But man,
Well, it does have the feature of if you die like 3 or 4 times, clicking over to the "Do you want the easy version of this boss?"
oh weird.
Which I did, and oh hell yeah, I did. After I was like, I died of this thing 6 times. I'm sick of grinding. What's easy mode look like? And it just knocks 3 levels down. So I was like, okay, well now I don't really have to go grind a level or two to be easy version of this boss. But then
Oh.
it's like, but then I was like, okay, so now I'm gonna go to the next boss. I'm still gonna have to grind to get up to even the easy version of that one because it's still just knocking off a level or two.
Oh God, that's like, oh Jesus, that's like the worst way to do that to me. Like just thinking about like, oh my gosh, because that's like the thing I don't like about action RPG. I love action RPGs. One of the things I hate is that when you level up, sometimes they're just bosses you can't beat because of your level, and it doesn't really make. And then the only thing you can do is grind. So the fact that like an easy mode boss has nothing to do with like tactics, it just has to do with that stat. It has a number. It just lowered a number. It didn't
Yep.
change the boss. It didn't do anything. It just lowered a number. That's like the laziest way of doing like
Yeah.
difficulty design.
Yeah. So the game is fantastic, and I think I put more time into this than I put into a lot of games. I put probably I think I was my timer clocked out right now at like 40 hours ish, 38 hours ish.
I feel like we talked about this so many times where we both stop games around 30 hours if they're JRPGs.
Yep, that's about, and that's normally like my cap. And normally by the time I hit 35 or 40, unless there's a real good hook or I'm real close to the end and I know I am,
Yeah,
it's to the point where I put 30 hours into this. I've seen in 30 hours, I've seen everything you want me to see.
yeah,
At this point, give me my nice conclusion to the story I've been going through. Let's call it a day. And I know that's not most people who play these big open world giant RPGs. I know that's mostly not their opinion.
yeah.
But to me, after 30 hours of something, I need a little break.
I mean, yeah, yeah. Well, if you say you need a break, I mean, are you going? Are you going to revisit it? Or are you like just done forever? Or
I mean, I could. I don't know. Part of this is Bayonetta 2. I just got that. So I was like, ooh, Bayonetta, I have that now.
yeah,
And I have Fallout 4 sitting here. So it's like, part of it's going like, man, I've sunk like a month of time into this. And I really don't want to just put another 5 hours into just grinding
yeah,
when
yeah.
I've got, 5 hours will take me probably halfway through Bayonetta. 5 hours will get me a good start into Fallout. It's just those things are much more appealing to me right now. And if
Mhm.
I'm not enjoying a game, what's the point in playing it?
Yeah, that sounds like a yeah. That kind of reminds me of like when I had Arkham Knight, and I beat Arkham Knight, and I just had to like kind of swipe up the side missions, and I realized like there's really not a lot more to see in the game once.
Yeah.
Not that once. I mean, I expect like once you beat the game, like there really shouldn't be a whole lot, but there's a certain point where you get where you just like have these side missions left, and they just feel like that like quote unquote content,
Yep.
and it's just this sort of like it's not interesting. There's no like unique. There's like small unique moments, but there's no that at this point forward there's just gonna be no bombastic moments. Like there might be one or two, but like because games are sort of front edited just in general, because not everybody's gonna get to the end. There you do hit this point. I think you've hit this point, and we talk, and I hit this point all the time with JRPGs where it's like I feel like I understand this game, and from this point forward, like there's nothing more for me to get out of it because I understand how these mechanics work. Maybe they'll do like some small things to change it, but I've already learned the mechanics, and now it's just like going back to the grindstone of
Yeah.
just
Yeah, and there's some story stuff left. Like I said, I've got 2 or 3 story chapters left, I think. I want to say I'm in 10 is where I left off.
mhm.
So I think I've got 2 more left. So there is, the big giant, there's kind of a doomsday event happening in this that you find out about halfway through. So it is kind of one of those things where I'm curious to see, excuse me, how it plays out,
Mm-hmm.
but not curious enough that I don't want to deal with that crap that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn. Well, I guess I feel like we're gonna do like maybe like 3 months, 3 or 4 months from now. You're like, oh, I finished Xenoblade. They're just gonna get a
Yeah,
text
it'll
like
probably end up.
that.
It'll be a good summer game while I'm sitting around doing nothing over the summers. Yep.
Yeah, I feel like both of us. I don't know if you feel this as much as I do, but I feel like I'm just purposely avoiding long games now because of exactly that. Where I feel like as soon as I get a game, like I'm done with a game, so I'd rather keep learning something new and new and new. Which we're not talking about this on the podcast because I'll probably finish it by next podcast when I'll do like a full review. The Witness. Every time I go back to The Witness, there's like something completely new because of how the puzzles are sort of oriented. So it's kind of this thing that's kind of kept my interest because it keeps doing something new and over again. But that game took like, I don't know, 4 years to make or something. So you
Put some
can't really
time into
do
that.
that.
Yeah, and again, it's a game that held my interest. There is not a thing wrong with this game. This is a perfect example of game design, of open world design.
Hmm.
The combat's a little and especially kind of as you play through it, the more you play through the game, the less and less interesting the combat gets.
Hmm.
But it's a game that has a lot of wow factor, like you said, front loaded. It's a game I would still put in my top 3 or 4 games of last year easily, if not the best one. It's an
Yeah.
amazing game, and it got to the point where uh, there's things I would rather be playing right now than this, and that's just set it aside. And if I come back to it, I come back to it. If not, you know, YouTube the ending.
Oh damn, that's bad.
Well, I really do
what
want
it
to.
feels
It
like?
has an awesome sci-fi story, and I really do want to know what the ending is. But it's like I'm not quite willing to invest another 10 to 15 hours to see that video.
The only time I ever YouTubed an ending was Final Fantasy X because my save got deleted. I mentioned that a few times. Still mad about that. But yeah, I guess one of the things I want to say, because the more you talk about this game, it feels like every big game that we've had that we've been disappointed with, especially like Metal Gear Solid 5 is a good example. Like it feels like every
Yes.
game sort of has like this really interesting piece that if you add it to this other game, like every big game that's released has like this piece of the perfect game, the hypothetical perfect game. And Xenoblade has it, but there's these disappointing aspects that's kind of bogged down. Metal Gear Solid 5 has it, but has these disappointing aspects that's bogged down by. I don't know. I think it's an interesting way to start the gen because I feel like people are going to start learning from these things, and we're going to
Yeah.
see some pretty effing crazy games in the future.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah. No game's perfect. Guitar Hero Live's pretty close, but no game's perfect.
It's so, God, it's so messed up hearing you say that. I'm never going to use that.
Dude, I put so much more. I put so much more time into that game too. We can talk more about that.
We're not talking more about Guitar Hero. I guess I guess go buy Guitar Hero because this game is apparently God's gift to man.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm
I
sure
love it.
I'm sure it's fine. Um, so I guess moving on to game I play. I've like I said, I've been playing The Witness a lot. Still, man, that game is probably going to be in like one of my favorite games of all time. Brad, put your guitar down. I'm just looking at my Skype window. This this plastic guitar comes floating up. But no, I think the Witness. I'll try to do a full review next week if I finish it by then. The Witness is probably definitely one of my favorite games of all time. It is a whole unique experience, just a fantastic game. Like I said, since I'll be talking about that next week, I'm going to talk a little bit about Unraveled.
Wait, really quick. I know you said you're going to talk about Witness next week because this game boggles my mind every time somebody says that.
Yeah.
How is it different than me just getting a book of line puzzles and doing them with a pencil?
Because I mean, I sort of tried to explain this like last time, but it's there is no. I'll say a few of the puzzles that would be like that. There are a few puzzles that you could actually like draw it on paper and try to figure out. But because the environment plays such a huge role in how you solve puzzles, it makes it really, really unique. Like there are certain. It's really hard to talk about without spoiling, but the environment plays a larger aspect than what's on the board for some of the puzzles.
Okay.
And it's sort of this, and it's an open world exploratory game on top of that. So there's a lot of really cool things. Yeah, it's really hard to talk about without spoiling. So I'm gonna try to figure out how I can actually like, sort of review it next week. No, that's really good, and it is a game that like completely changes how you think about the game. Like every time you play it, well, not every time you play it. Say like every time you get to a new set of puzzles, it completely makes you look at the game a different way. So the game I am going to talk about is Unraveled. I think me and Brad are kind of we talk on Facebook a bit, and I think both of us were trying to figure out if we wanted Firewatch or Unraveled. And
Yep.
you just realize, is this game called Untangled or Unraveled? Just
It's your freaking game, not mine.
I don't know. I just realized that. I was like, I don't know if this is called Unravel. Doesn't matter. It's a game with a little
Yeah, the
red.
yarn guy.
Yeah,
Oh god.
it's a lot like it's basically the plot of the game. So I actually haven't gotten in the plot of the game so far. I have a very good idea of I have an idea of what's going on, like a running theory.
So just really quick, it's called Unravel.
It's Unravel. I was wrong on all counts.
Yeah, we're just terrible at this.
Yeah. So Unravel is, I would say, hands down, probably one of the most gorgeous games I've ever played. It's got a really unique tone. The game opens up with like an old lady walking upstairs and then dropping a ball of yarn, and then Yarny comes to life, and like that's all you're given to the story. Um, the game has a really unique setting. It's actually set in. I'm gonna say this wrong. I know it's a Nordic country. I'm gonna say like Norway, but I know it's not. It's maybe it's like the coast of Sweden or something like that. So the game is not in English. There's no spoken words. There's a few written words. Like when you start the game, there's a pillowcase next to you, and it's actually in Swedish. I don't know if it says like home or something like that. But
What if it just said pillow?
huh?
Maybe it just says pillow.
I feel like it says something meaningful. Actually, the game the game actually opens up with a short paragraph. I love when developers do this. A short paragraph from the developers saying like, "Hey, we worked on this game for 2 years. It means a lot to us. We hope it means a lot to you," kind of thing.
In other words, don't hurt our feelings and say mean things about our game.
That's such a mean way of boiling it down. No, I mean like I think most I would say like a large percentage of games. I mean people spend a lot of time in this. I imagine a lot of thought goes into these games.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
being a jackass.
I know you're messing with it. But yeah, so it's like really nice. You get sort of a note from the developer. It's like this is a really personal story. And the thing is, like, I love the idea for this game because you're like this little like yarn character, and you're walking through this world that's full of animals. Sometimes you'll see like little hedgehogs walking by. There's an evil gopher that comes out every once in a while, but it's like an actual gopher. It's not like a cartoon gopher, but it's like, oh, what would a gopher react like if this like sentient yarn character like started coming into its house? Like you're like, oh, well, it'd probably attack you. It'd probably try to get you out of the house, out of its like underground area. Well, I'm trying to be not mean about this because the game, I love the idea of the game. I don't actually like playing it too much. It's it's a 2D side scroller. It's got amazing graphics. It's got like photorealistic graphics. Probably the most amazing graphics I've seen in any game ever, probably. Um, but it's not just as kind of giving it too little credit, but it's a decent 2D platformer. And the thing is, like, I was playing this game quite a bit, and then I just sort of lost interest after a while. And it's not because the presentation is wonderful. The music's amazing. The character's really cool. The character's a lot of very unique animations. Like as you're walking through the level, like if a little hedgehog runs by, he'll like watch the hedgehog run by or get scared.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
If a butterfly comes but too close to him. So it kind of feels more like watching a short film, which is kind of a unique experience. I'd say it's not something I've experienced before in a game. But yeah, it's just that the 2D gameplay, it's like a lot of platforming. The platforming is, if you like, it's Little Big. It's much better than Little Big Planet. I will say that. I know a lot of people. I like Little Big Planet a lot, but I will admit that the jumping physics aren't great. So it's much better than that. But it's not like really super tight and snappy because that's not what they focused on. They've sort of focused on telling a story with the environment and making these photorealistic environments and making this yarn characters seem like a very real thing in that environment. So I don't know. I don't know if I don't know what my final opinion is on it because I haven't finished it, but it's just kind of my first impression of the game. It's like it's just got a really amazing presentation, but it's just that I think personally I'm kind of bored with the 2.5D platformers because
Yeah,
we've played a lot.
there's so many. I feel like that's the most oversaturated thing at the current moment is just everybody. What's we got an idea? 2.5 platformer, 2.5 platformer, never alone. This, everything. Just so many.
Yeah, and then like everything they have those tropes of like, you have to pull the block over and then jump on the block and then get up to the higher level. Like I feel it's really hard just because 2D platforming has been around for so long and there's been so many 2D platforming games. It's really hard to do something original. And when you
Yeah.
do something even like the most original thing you do is just kind of like a small twist on the formula. And I feel like it's kind of a retread of formula over and over and over again. That it'd be really really hard to do something new and unique. And I feel like Shovel Knight kind of got away with it because it had a number of gimmicks, and this one really only has one or two in which you can kind of build platforms. But I don't know. I think at the very least the presentation is amazing. I'm really glad EA made it because it looks like EA is at least tempting to do.
Wait, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh shit.
Well, it's at least published by EA, and it looks like they're trying to do the Ubisoft thing of like Grow Home and Child of Light, and giving, if not small developers, their own developers like kind of like an outlet. Like, hey, we know that you work on these games, and well, I know there's some people with passion projects. Like, I'm pretty sure nobody went to like, I want to make Need for Speed. I mean, there might be like one guy.
Somebody did. No. There are people who like Need for Speed. This was developed by Coldwood Interactive, who does not have a Wikipedia page, which means this is probably their first game.
That's the extent of our research. Yeah, I think that they're like in Sweden or something. They're not in. They're definitely not in America. That's for sure. But yeah, I guess that's my impressions of Yarny. Not Yarny. What's it called? Unravel.
Unravel. Okay. Can we make just a rule here? When you play a game, you have to know the name if you're going to talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah, I was actually really confident until I actually read it, and I was like, I don't know if that's right. I don't think that's right. It doesn't matter. It's that game with the yarn guy. If you're honestly like, if you're kind of like, okay, I'm okay with 2.5D, that doesn't really matter to me. The presentation is amazing. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous looking game, and I think it really does. If you're into short films, I think it's a really good playable short film. Just because of the high quality of animation. And it feels really unique because you do feel really, really small in this sort of like big world. So yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I guess that's my impressions of Unravel. I don't think I'll get Firewatch though. I think I need some like mind-numbing shooting, slicing dudes up games. I've been playing a lot of these like wandering around and feeling.
You know what's a great mind-numbing game?
Bayonetta.
No, I was gonna say Guitar Hero, but Bayonetta too. You should play Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero is perfect for that. I played Xenoblade for 2 hours. Play Guitar Hero for a half hour.
No. So I guess I just need an arcadey game. I think I've just been like I love indie games, but I started like after a while it's like I just want to shoot something.
God.
Which is really horrible because I think it's just because like of Bloodborne and stuff. Like I just need that sort of like immediate feedback kind of game where you like slice, shoot, bang, da-da-da-da. I just really haven't had that in a while. Like Bloodborne is probably the last game I consider. Metal Gear Solid 5 probably. I just need some shooting.
Well, how long till Doom? 2 months till Doom?
Oh my God, Doom! Holy crap! I just realized I'm excited for that game just because I said that. I wasn't really excited for Doom. I was like, I need a game where I shoot things.
April something, right? I think is Doom. So a couple months.
Yeah. I guess that's true. I didn't think about that. But I did get to play The Division, which was very shooty. So
yes, The Division.
We both got to play The Division. That's a good segue. I like when our segues seem planned, but they're not.
Well, it totally doesn't now. Way to throw that under the bus. All right.
So we both played The Division, and I think we both had, from what I talked to you a little bit about it, I think we both had pretty different opinions on this. This is a game, I guess, what were your expectations of going to this game? Did you have, like, any? Were you excited? Were you just kind of like, eh?
I will admit, going in, I do not care about this game. This was, I started playing the beta with the hope the beta would convince me I was going to enjoy this game. I don't know why. I had zero expectations for this game. I had zero real desire to play this. If it wasn't for the beta, I probably never would have touched this game.
Yeah.
And as I played it, I was like, I completely confirmed every reason why I thought that.
That's fine. I think we came from I was cautiously optimistic. I don't like going into I think with you, you said that a little bit, I guess, like with more emotion than you meant it, but like when we kind of go into this game, like, okay, I have no idea what this game's really going to be. Let's just okay, you show me what this game is, and then I'll decide if I like it. And going with no expectations, I played Far Cry recently. I just realized I don't really like those Ubisoft games, but I really liked the Division beta a lot. And I think it was because I was also playing Destiny at the time, and I was like, this is like Destiny, but like Destiny to me,
it's exactly like Destiny.
It's like, but no, it's not in very specific ways. So Destiny to me, I felt maybe I haven't gotten far enough, but I'm like 15 hours in. Like I feel like I've seen a lot of the game. It feels very samey after a while, and maybe it's just because we just started this game. It feels new, like everything feels new. It's like that first 5 hours of Destiny you have.
Yeah.
The thing that immediately caught my attention though was the world of the Division. I thought was incredible. I thought it was like I thought it was absolutely amazing because I think that The Last of Us kind of showed us like, oh, every post-apocalyptic game I've played, it's like this is so far in the future, like there's only small amounts of humanity left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like these small groups and stuff like that. But this is like it's an apocalypse that still has people in it. I think when you first come to the island, like there's like maybe off to the side there's like a group of like I don't know maybe like 30 or 40 people like in a line getting ready to go through some sort of checkpoint or something like that.
Yep.
And it's kind of like the apocalypse only happened I don't know maybe like 2 years prior or something like that. So things are so like the electricity is still on. That was kind of an interesting thing I thought was like you'll walk past billboards or Christmas lights that are still on. You don't really see that in apocalypse games. You always see like just decades of and I think that's more of a technology thing that you couldn't really have a highly populated apocalypse. But now, because of the technology, we can have like a lot of people running around in the apocalypse, and so we can justify that by setting our time period earlier. Uh, but that was like
Yeah, I
my
guess
first
so.
impression was like I was just so caught off guard. I was like, wow, this is just a cool universe.
See, and again, maybe it's just I don't have a big thing for post-apocalyptic stuff. Like Fallout's been sitting on my shelf for like 2 months, just staring at me,
Yeah,
and I don't know why. I just as soon as I got in the helicopter, as soon as I walked down, I was like, "Oh, yep, okay, we got to go in the old abandoned building that's kind of tore up, and now we got to set up a base." Yep, okay. Oh, I need to go to the torn down hospital that's full of weird crap to go and find some medicine or something. Yep, done that before. It really just felt like, okay, this is a post-apocalyptic game, and here you go.
I feel like we might have gotten different missions because you described that you went. So what was your? I don't know if they did this in the I probably should have wrapped on this a little bit, but it sounds like we got different missions because my medical, like, because I think everybody had the same thing. They had to upgrade their medical base and upgrade their tech base, maybe.
Yep, mine
Uh,
was medical tech and communication. I want to say there were three.
yeah, yeah. So my first, I think security was like closed off to the beta or
Yeah,
something like that. Um, so my first mission was I had to rescue doctors at some place, but the place that I'd rescue them from was an abandoned basketball court. Uh, so like like when you I didn't even realize what it was at first. Like I saw when you kind of walk in, you see like the faces of coaches and stuff. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, I guess. Uh, but there's a part like when you actually start battling people, like you come into this humongous arena, just like this with like you see all like the hundreds of like thousands of seats. There's actually a jumbotron up top that's still like kind of lit, and on the bottom like the thing was opened up as a hospital. So it's like a hospital kind of sitting in the middle of a basketball arena. And I was just like, I've just never seen anything like that before. I've never seen anything that dense before. I've always seen, whenever you get to like the ball arena in whatever Fallout or something like that, it's always like there's a few scattered seats around or something like that. Like you never see a full arena. Uh, so I don't know. I was just kind of
yeah.
like taken aback. I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that from this.
See, that sounds way because mine was I went right into a medical mission. I had to go into like this hospital thing, and as soon as I was in the hospital, it was just your standard corridors, bigger open rooms, going upstairs, like that kind of stuff that you would see in most other games. And then that was pretty much it. And it was just kind of had this feeling of okay, yep, that's fine.
Oh, that's so weird to me because like my battles I was fighting in like you know how like every stadium has a bar? Like I was
Yeah,
fighting in the bar or I was fighting in the place where they have all their trophies up or I was fighting in the main arena. And then like the last thing is like you go up to the top like where they have like the lights pointing down and stuff. So
yeah,
you go up to like the top area, like you end up in like the prime seat boxes and stuff like that. And like the whole thing like kind of like whirls up to the top of the building. And they have a
yeah.
big
That sounds
fight on
way
top of
cooler.
yeah, and that I thought was really cool. And I was like, you're like, I was in a hospital. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't have that. um, the other thing I sort of liked, or actually the other mission I had was like a sort of an underground area where these guys with flamethrowers.
Yep.
That
You were in the
wasn't.
subway trying to set power back up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like there might have been a mission you might not have played. Um, but
That could have been it.
the
I only
thing
played for about 2 hours and then turned it off because I was not interested.
that's so weird. I played the shit out of that game. Like I played I don't know like maybe 4 or 5 hours of it. Um, But the other one, which is like just fighting in a sewer, I was like, okay, you're just fighting in a sewer. But there's a part where you keep hearing about like, oh, it's just where they threw the dead bodies. Like, what? Okay, sure. It's like it's just something you hear in mission blurbs. You're like,
Yeah,
okay, sure, whatever. But there's a part where you actually get into the sewers, and there's just like body bags, like hundreds of like
yeah.
thousands of body bags. I was like, holy shit, that's. I was like, wow, that's okay. I've never seen that before. And then the next
See, but
room,
I feel like I have.
really?
Like that doesn't seem like just seeing like body bags littering a sewer. I've seen like that's been in games before.
I guess that's true, but I think the next room is where I was like, "Oh wow!" Well, I think that first impression I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." I haven't really seen that before. I do agree. I've seen body bags before, but not just that many. And then the next room was like soldiers, like caskets, because so you go in the room with all these like black body bags. And the next one is like it's a bunch of very nice caskets draped in American flags. It's like, holy shit! I definitely never seen that, and they're just
Yeah,
abandoned
okay.
in the
I
sewer.
didn't. I didn't get that part.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just thought that was like a really crazy image of like these body bags just abandoned in a sewer because they just ran out of room. And I felt like there was like far more storytelling in the environment. I don't. I mean, this game really stuck with me. I don't know. I felt like the environment was really cool, and then the gameplay was like, oh, it was okay.
Yeah, it was very okay. I don't know. How did you feel about the RPG system in this?
I didn't like it. I thought
I hated it.
I didn't like it at all. I thought I talked about this on the other podcast, and I was like, it didn't make sense then, and I played it didn't make sense like now.
Makes no damn sense. I just shot this guy and did 700 hit points of damage with my 30 bullet clip SMG. Why is he still alive?
Yeah, I think that's a yeah. I think that was the one thing that I was just like this, and this happens in so many Ubisoft games. That like Far Cry 4. When I talk about Far Cry 4, it's like Far Cry 4 would be an amazing game if it wasn't a Far Cry game. This would be an amazing game if it didn't have that stupid Ubisoft shit of like this one. This feels like Ubisoft's Destiny. But in Destiny, it kind of made sense because you're shooting like aliens with armor and stuff. But in this one, like you're shooting just guys. Like I had to empty like 3 clips into a
Yeah,
single gang member guy because he was
the
three.
named leaders or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. Or like it's just like a simple like normal character that's like just happens to be 3 levels ahead of me. It's like this makes no sense. And it's really weird like how cool the environment is and how realistic it seems and all these stories it tells like completely falls apart as soon as you're shooting a level 5 goon. I was
yeah,
like, what is this?
yeah. And I, and thinking about it, it doesn't make any sense because in a game like Fallout, where the same thing happens, where it's like I'm shooting mutants with a full clip, or in like even fantasy games, I hit that random dwarf 8 times with a sword. Like that seems totally normal. But just because of the different setting where it's okay, now this is a realistic setting,
Yeah.
this is a realistic game, we're going to put essentially the same mechanic that's in every other RPG where it's just a numbers game into this third person shooter. It feels wrong because there's no reason for that to be there. And I think it's too close to reality to know, you know what? If I hit somebody with a bullet, they're probably dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe it takes 2 or 3 if I'm hitting bad spots, or you know what I mean? Like, whatever. Yeah. But when I put it into a fantasy realm, when I put it into a science fiction realm, okay, I can wrap my head around that. He's probably has space bulletproof armor on,
Yeah.
and he's got a super awesome chainmail helmet on that would make my sword just make his head numb a little bit. You know what I mean? Like we put all these like conceptions around it, whereas this is just like a shirtless dude in shorts who
Yeah, I
took
think I
30
think we have like
bullets
I
to
think we
take.
have an idea of how many hit points a person has. Like we just don't know how many
Yeah,
hit points a dragon has or an alien has. Like okay, I can sort of maybe it does take that much because of this, but yeah, because it's so realistic. And that was kind of it is all the things I said before. It's like when I started, it's like I want to start really positive. It's because my negative aspects were the game was like the gamey aspects of it was like I don't know. It's just weird that like yeah, it takes a few clips for somebody to go down. It kills whatever amazing story you're trying to tell with that environment and that art. Um, One thing I do want to talk about. Did you ever go to the Dark Zone?
no, I never made it there. I couldn't find it.
Oh, the Dark Zone's super cool. Like that is like I don't like the gamey aspects, but gamey aspect wise, the Dark Zone is fucking amazing. Like, have you heard how the Dark Zone works or?
That's just the PvP area, right?
Sort of. So what it is like everybody can shoot each other, but they sort of encourage you not to. So what happens is like you can have your own. I had like a little. I was just kind of hanging around one guy, um, the whole time just because I was like I need to partner up with somebody. And but what it is like you kind of walk. So it's just me and him were walking, and then another group is approaching us. And then we just actually it was kind of cool because we're walking by slowly and we're both sort of pointing our guns at each other, just waiting for the first person to shoot. And then we just kept walking. And I was like, wow, I've just never felt that in a game before where you're just like kind of waiting for everything to explode. And I was like, damn, that is really cool. I feel like that's where the RPG aspects and the shooting aspects and like the things make more sense. It doesn't make sense when you're shooting just normal enemies.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've heard, that was the big draw of this. And I
Hmm.
looked around for a second, I wasn't sure how to get there, so I kind of gave up because I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I really feel like if you were to take this world, take this environment, take everything about this game, remove the RPG aspect gameplay, and put in a system similar to something like The Last of Us,
Yeah. Yeah.
or even something more combat heavy than The Last of Us, and you were to put in just more of that traditional third person shooter game, this game has a completely different feel to it.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the gameplay system sort of betrayed whatever they were trying to do.
Yeah.
It made it felt cheaper. I think Destiny is okay. Destiny's tone is really strange, but Destiny kind of it has this weird sort of half jokey tone about everything that I think is okay for Destiny. Like if you watch the
Yep.
commercials for Destiny, it's like, "Hey guys, let's go take down this monster." But this one is trying to set not really oppressive tone, not like it's not as dark as The Last of Us, not at all. But it's definitely trying to set a tone. And when you're sitting there worried about stats and you're worried about like armor boosts and stuff like that, it kind of betrays that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like this actually, I think it should, if like we're talking about a hypothetical fix to the game where it didn't have those RPG elements, I think at the very least it probably should still be multiplayer, just because of that tension of you don't know if somebody's going to try to shoot you. I was like, that's cool. That is something I've just never had in a game before.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, I really liked it. I know you didn't. I don't think I'll buy it though, which is kind of a bummer.
See, and that's the thing, is like this is not a game I would buy, and I don't know. I just there wasn't any. Just I really felt like there wasn't anything unique about it. It's a post-apocalyptic game. It has an art. The most unique thing about this game is the battle or the shooting gameplay RPG system that doesn't feel right. That's the most unique thing about this game. I feel like in my mind is the thing that I don't like.
I would say the setting is unique for video games. Like I was, I think a highly detailed, just a few hours after the apocalypse, a few years after the apocalypse thing hasn't been done before. I feel like it feels like a retread, and I could probably see that, but I think it's pretty significant that it has a lot of people in it. But I can understand what you're saying. Oh, how'd you like the cover system? Sorry, I want to talk about that real quick.
It was okay.
I thought the cover system was fucking amazing
Why?
because I kept wondering when I was walking around, I kept wondering, I was like, why is it telling me to press X? Why is it telling me to press X? Um, And what I realized is that you could actually aim at cover, and then when you held X, you ran to that cover. So it's kind of like like the XCOM sort of like lines that you would draw. I don't know if you played XCOM before.
Yeah.
So when you looked at a cover, it would show you the line that your character would automatically run to. So you could actually like
Mm-hmm.
sit there and play with it, play with your lines, and play with the way you're kind of like getting to cover. Um,
I feel like lots of games do that at this point.
do they? I don't know. I guess I haven't played a lot of cover-based shooters in a
Yes, I
while.
mean Gears of War. As soon as you look at a wall and you hold A, if you get within a certain distance, it auto covers to it.
Oh no, but I'm saying you could point at a wall like way far away, and then he would
Oh, okay.
automatically kind of like run into it. It kind of felt like you had this like weird tactical aspect because you saw a guy moving over to your right.
Oh
Um,
no, I missed that part. So yeah, okay, that sounds unique. Yes.
yeah, okay, never mind. If you didn't
I don't know.
notice it, I can see why people wouldn't notice it because you can play it like a normal Gears of War where you just sort
Yeah,
of like
that's.
running
I mean,
over.
that's essentially how I played it. Yeah, it's like Gears of War, any other cover-based shooter.
But yeah, no, the cover system I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, yeah, like too bad
So
you don't
why
listen-
won't you buy it?
Huh?
You're very positive about this. You said you hooked into this game. It's all good. Why aren't you buying it?
It just seemed like honestly, like thinking about it, it just seems like a very big time sink. Like there's too many games that are asking too much of my time. Like it just seems like I was like, oh crap, this is another Destiny. This is one of those games that's going to ask a lot of my time. It's like I don't have time for you, and I'm not going to do that.
Okay, so hypothetically,
Yeah,
they turn this into a 10-hour story-based third person, like a 10-hour just straight 10-hour third person shooter. Do you buy it then, knowing that?
I would if they did sort of like if it was like a squad based like multiplayer shoot. If they kept the multiplayer aspect, but yeah, they kept it. They made it more. Yeah, I feel like the environment, just like I said, every Ubisoft environment game deserves. Yeah, every Ubisoft environment deserves a better game than it is, and I kind of feel like the same way with this. Like I would probably be much more excited about it, and I think that the main meat of the game, which is those RPG aspects, kind of hamper a potentially amazing game.
Yeah. Well, the beta did crazy. I don't know if you saw
I
numbers
did see
from it,
that. Yeah.
but this game is going to be big, which I'm honestly a little shocked by how big it's going to be. And I think we talked about it before. I think that all goes back to the launch trailer for this 4 years ago.
Yeah, but I think there could be a lot of people in our position where like I don't know about this game. Let's just try it. Let's just let's see what you are. Well, I think Destiny was like I don't know. I feel like Destiny probably made more sales because like holy shit, it's Bungie. Yeah, Bungie, and this one's like okay, you show us. Which
Yeah,
so I don't know if
I
that.
guess that's true.
Mhm,
This worked as a good show and tell of
mhm.
this is that thing you've heard a lot about and don't fully understand. Give it a go.
Yeah,
It almost feels like Splatoon's beta, where it almost feels like more of a we're gonna use this not so much as a beta but more as a hook.
that's
Like
yeah.
I would not have bought Splatoon if it was not for that beta.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is a good hook. I feel like a lot of people played it, but I don't know if it's a good hook, like you're saying.
Yeah.
I hope it's a good hook. I mean, I hope it's kind of successful. I just feel like what I'm gonna make my prediction is that because some people are talking so highly of the Dark Zone, they're just gonna focus on Dark Zone stuff, and that like hypothetical single player stuff is just gonna kind of fall away.
Yeah.
And did you play it with a partner, or did you just play it by yourself?
I did one mission with a partner.
Okay, all right. I was just curious. I was gonna lambaste you if you played it by yourself because I thought that was a pretty fun like co-op game. Uh,
Yeah.
so I guess because there's this kind of light on news this week, there's been a lot of discussions about the Street Fighter Five. It's $60. Does it have enough content? Does it want release? Um, but I think that everybody keeps saying. I think across the board, everybody keeps saying about Street Fighter Five, regardless of how much content it has really really good gameplay. I think you'll find very few people who would say, "Oh yeah, the gameplay is not up to snuff." But from everything I've read, it's like the gameplay is amazing. I'll preface that me and Brad haven't played it.
Haven't touched this at all.
Yeah, I haven't touched this at all. There you go. So I'm gonna be honest. So instead of talking just about Street Fighter Five because we haven't played it, so we can't give our impressions or anything like that. Our kind of discussion topic is gameplay your first priority when looking to purchase a game? I think for a long time there's sort of like this long-standing thought that like gameplay is everything. You can throw away everything else, and as long as the gameplay is good, you have a good game. But I think there's been some recent games that hasn't been so true, and I'm curious if it's true for you. I think the best example we can talk about is Metal Gear Solid 5, because you overall have a negative impression of Metal Gear Solid 5, but I don't think you could say a bad thing about the gameplay.
See, not negative. Negative over. Yeah, I guess I did negative overall. But anyway, yeah. To me, it's important, and I love Metal Gear Solid 5 for the gameplay, and I absolutely hate that monstrosity of a game for its story. Monstrosity is probably a bit hard, but just to me, it's important, and I want something to look fun. If it doesn't look fun, I'm not interested, and that's part of my problem with The Division. Is this system wasn't fun. Okay. At no point was I running through shooting people going, this is fun, this is fun, this is fun. The environment was great, yes. The engine was, beautiful, but at no point in this game was I sitting there going, ooh, this is really fun. Ooh, this is really fun. I was going, oh, that's kind of cool looking. Oh, okay. Okay, that's kind of cool, neat mechanic there. I see what you're doing. But at no point did I go, ooh, this gameplay, I could sit here and play this for 20 hours.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, like, so I guess in the case of Division, is there a game though you would say something like the gameplay wasn't good, but I still liked it? If like to you for whatever reason, why is the gameplay of the Division so important to you? Well, I'm trying to think of another game. Well, you like those sort of like really gameplay centered games, which is like Splatoon and Rocket League, were like your number one. But something like Until Dawn, which arguably doesn't have great gameplay.
And I think, and if you go back and listen to our Game of the Year episode, I think this was the big debate between us. You could boil it down to this, I think.
Yeah.
My issue with Until Dawn is I didn't do much. It's 9 hours of me pushing buttons.
Yeah.
Whereas Rocket League, I needed to master something. Splatoon, I needed to master something. I needed to figure out a way to play this. I had fun playing it. Until Dawn, I loved. Amazing game. Amazing game. I hope they make 100 more.
On
Why
sale
not
now
100?
on the PSN store.
$22.99, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
$23.99, but yeah.
Oh, that's close. If you're a PS Plus member, I'm assuming if you're not, you probably got to pay an extra $3.
Yeah.
But anyway, this episode's brought to you by Until Dawn. But anyway, with that,
Don't say that. It's not like we overpaid.
I'm pretending, and then maybe they'll just send us a check. Anyway, with that game, I love it, and it's great. But that game has elements that overshadow the gameplay, and I think that, to me, gameplay for me is the most important thing. But can you overshadow that by being unique in Until Dawn sense? Absolutely you can.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you're automatically an amazing game? No. I look at, another example might even be Xenoblade to an
That's what I was just thinking about. That, yeah.
A little bit, and you didn't care for the combat. The combat, it's average. But again, the world building in that, and the monster design, and just the complete exploration aspect of that almost overshadows it to the point where, I mentioned, I think a couple episodes back, I got to the point where I was just running past monsters. I didn't want to deal with the combat. I just wanted to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And that, to me, becomes almost a part of the gameplay. A part of the gameplay is exploring. And I think that gets into these like walking simulators, which I haven't played a ton of.
Yeah.
But there's no gameplay there.
Yeah, I mean,
my gameplay is I push forward, and then I get to see all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
And if those worlds are unique enough, and if those worlds are built well enough, and if those worlds are designed in a way that makes sense and have enough going on in them to make it interesting, the gameplay loses focus, and I lose track of the fact that I'm literally just pushing a camera through this.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of like the world. The world sort of distracts. I'm not saying distracts you is kind of a bad word, but you're so enthralled in the world that the gameplay, just experiencing the world is enough to be like, this game is amazing. I think Xenoblade probably could have gotten away with it, but you're on 40 hours. Like,
yes.
I loved Until Dawn, but I felt like we even talked about this with I think South Park was another one where we felt like that game ended when it should have.
Yes.
Until Dawn ended when it should have. It had this very neat hook. I just don't know if those sort of games can last really, really long periods of time. Thinking of The Witness, I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, that game doesn't have a lot of gameplay per se because it kind of looks like those other games where you sort of walk around." The game actually has really, really, really unique gameplay in which you're constantly trying to learn new things. So actually, it can get away with being a walking simulator game that's so long because it keeps adapting and changing its gameplay. But to me, like when I look at a game, my first reaction isn't like, how does it play? Like, I rarely care unless it's turn-based. I just don't like turn-based games. I don't know.
I love turn-based games.
Because I don't know, like with our whole Division talk, I was like so enthralled with the world, and I love the world of the Division. So when I feel like,
and that's what I'm saying. Where if you're enthused enough about the world, and if you're drawn in enough by the world and the setting and the story and everything else that's going along with it, that gameplay takes a backseat. I mean, you literally came out, like, one of the second or third things you said was, the gameplay's not great.
Yeah.
But you went on and on for how great this game is and how you just got sucked into it and how you wanted to play more and you put 4 or 5 hours into it. And then your last thought was, yeah, but the gameplay wasn't great. And that's why I don't really want to come back to it. And that's what I really, really don't like about it. So it's still a sticking point, but it's not something that completely destroys the experience.
Yeah, I feel like we just from the way we've been talking for a long time, it's just I feel like we prioritize different, like how important something is to us. Because like to me, number one thing is like world. Like when I see a game, like the first thing that's gonna make me go ooh, like thinking about what's Horizon. Horizon's a good example. My first reaction wasn't like, I was like, okay, that's kind of nice looking. It's like, holy crap, robot dinosaurs. And then as soon as they started like picking weapons and stuff like that, like the actual gameplay aspects, it's like, oh, okay, I guess it has gameplay. Like, to me, that's like my first reaction to seeing a game isn't, ooh, how does that play? I can't believe that game plays like Bayonetta. I can't believe that's a stylish action game. I can't believe that's an action-adventure game. I can't believe that's a turn-based or a strategy game. My first reaction is, like, that world. And I don't know if that's something, like, to get me interested in a game is going to be the world, but actually playing it, I might put that a little bit lower. Because I feel with you, like, when we talk about games, I feel like we don't ever, when you're excited for a game, we don't talk about the gameplay, per se. I like talking about the world and the not characters, but just the design. I love the art aspect of games. So like, what to you then if gameplay, because you do prioritize gameplay, like when you see a game to be excited for, are you looking at the gameplay, or are you looking at what are you looking at when you are excited for a
It's
game?
it's interesting because I think like most people, I have certain triggers
Yeah.
because I know Horizon specifically. As soon as I saw that damn robot dinosaur, I went, "Oh shit! I'm gonna play the hell out of this. I don't care what the hell comes next. There's a big ass robot dinosaur. Who gives a shit about the rest of this? I want to kill that thing right now."
Yeah.
And like I have triggers. Like as soon as I see anything in space, anything with spaceships, anything with
Oh
like
yeah, yeah. We
crazy
talked about
weird,
that, yeah.
any science fiction crap, I just say science fiction blank name of game, and I'll go, I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
But to me, that specific demo that you're talking about really hit home to me with, holy crap, is this going to be a game that I cannot wait to play? When that trailer really hit home for me is when I saw that character running up, trying to start destroying that giant robot dinosaur, and I saw all the different ways. I went, okay, so this is how this game plays. Okay, I can get behind that. I like, this is a system that makes sense for how I'm going to be able to go in and take down this gigantic monster.
That's so funny because when I saw that scene, my reaction was like, "Oh wow, that's really cool. That's how you would take down a robotic dinosaur. It's like you would have to take like my reaction wasn't like, oh, I want to take that down. It's like, oh no, that's how you would take down a robot dinosaur. Like you'd have to kind of pull it down piece by piece. You'd have to rope it down. I'm thinking more of like the relationship between her and like having to fight a gigantic robot dinosaur. How would a human take down a robotic dinosaur? I'm not saying they're thinking of like the game. That's kind of interesting because I'm not thinking of the gameplay aspects at all. I'm seeing how they use those gameplay aspects to make a compelling sort of world. So I'm not excited to play that game. I'm excited more to experience that world, which is why I think I have a higher tolerance for some of these walking games where sometimes you're like, I didn't like that very much, or higher tolerance is the right word. I just enjoy those games more than to say something like Rocket League or something like that.
See, and that makes sense to me too, because I think, again, going back to a Game of the Year episode, when I said, I think Splatoon's my Game of the Year, you went, wait, what? What do you,
No, I still think that's
why?
ridiculous. I haven't played it though, so.
And again, I think that goes back to me, ultimately, and this is my issue with Xenoblade, is that world is amazing, that story is amazing, but at the end of the day, I wasn't enjoying playing it. And that's what it comes down to. You can have the most gorgeous, best story ever. You can take the greatest story of any video game ever, and if you make it so I'm bored, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't want to play it.
Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like a lot of that, like just thinking about it, I think it had a lot has to do with the length of the games. Because I think when we talked about Metal Gear Solid 5, we both liked Metal Gear, the first half of Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
I just thought I was like I realized I still haven't probably I don't think I finished that game yet. Like but I have a positive impression of it because of that first half, because it doesn't lose that luster. I think maybe it just comes down to gameplay is something that sort of like lasts forever, but the world would probably make a bigger impression on you. Like replaying a game, you sort of lose that, like BioShock. Replaying BioShock to me is not fun at all because you're like, okay, now I'm just playing the game. I understand what's coming up. I'm not really exploring because I know it's there. But a game like Rocket League, I can go back to. I probably have like I don't know how many 50, 60 hours in that game. Even though when I look back on it, it's like I don't have as strong as impression of it as a game I've only played for 10 hours. So maybe it just comes down to the gameplay is the thing that makes the game last longer. I don't know. I guess that's just my. I don't know how else to put that.
So I guess getting back to the original point here, Street Fighter V.
Oh yeah, forgot we're talking about that, aren't we?
We are on the tangent of all tangents.
Yeah.
Street Fighter V, the issue has nothing to do with world building. The issue has nothing to do with character plot setting. It's a fighting game. It's not supposed to have that. Or it's supposed to, loosely have things that tie together in a way that doesn't make your brain hurt.
I would say they didn't used to have that until NetherRealms made actually like spent time like, hey, like nobody's ever done this before, like actually put a story into our single player, put a ton of modes in. I think Mortal Kombat's always had sort of a ton of modes, even arguably even Street Fighter. But I think like Mortal Kombat games kind of set the expectation of like what to expect from a single player experience.
But anyway, yeah, and I guess that's true. But the issue with Street Fighter is not in those issues. It's in the issue of you have essentially online and versus, and that's all you get for $60.
Yeah.
And you point out that this game is apparently, pretty close to flawless when it comes to a fighting engine.
Yeah.
And balance and all of that other stuff. But is that enough? If I'm going to pay $60, not even necessarily $60, but as a game as a whole, if that's all I can do, is that okay? That we spent, 3 years developing and balancing this engine to perfection, but kind of forgot to let you do anything with it.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, like, I see. I don't know. To me, like Street Fighter is not compelling at all because it's like I was actually interested in Mortal Kombat because of that story aspect, because of that not content, but I was just like, oh, they do a lot of interesting things with these characters and like trying to tell stories with like just even the costumes and stuff like that. Like they're trying to do something with it instead of being just so focused on gameplay. And Street Fighter sort of did the opposite. Like, we're going to just concentrate entirely on gameplay. There's some other few other issues with it. But I think that basically that gameplay, you can't rely on gameplay anymore, regardless of who you are. You can't just rely on gameplay anymore to make a good game. I think you used to be able to do that, but games like, I don't know, say like The Witcher, which just had like an ungodly amount of things to do, or games like I don't know, what's like another just game, I don't know, what's it, Fallout. It's like, there's like there's not just a ton of things to do, there's a ton of compelling stories to tell, or like even those like walking simulator walking I say walking simulators like not as like a slur or anything like that. Actually, I actually like that sort of idea. Those can tell compelling stories. I just don't, and not have great gameplay. I just don't think it's enough anymore just to rely on your gameplay. And if you are, you can do something like Rocket League where you don't charge as much. Like that's just what it comes down to.
Well, and I think Rocket League came because of that. It was free to begin with, and it's what, 10, 20 bucks now.
Yeah,
It also came completely unburdened by expectations.
yeah.
Nobody really knew what this was. It was just like, oh, it's car soccer. Okay, what's that going to be? You know what I mean? And it's interesting how I think almost in people's mind the fact that it's Street Fighter, well, this has to be big. This has to be huge things. I think weighs down what it actually ends up being.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying like the expectations for it kind of killed it more than the actual
Yeah.
gameplay. Yeah. But but I don't think those expectations are unwarranted.
No, I don't either. I mean, Street Fighter 4 had, came with enough modes when it came out, and
Yeah.
I think also going through the fact that you now have Ultra Street Fighter 4 and Ultra Turbo Street Fighter 4 and whatever other ones
Hmm.
that those built on it, that it's almost like, okay, we kept building on this thing to where the last one, I don't remember what the last Ultra Super Turbo Street Fighter 4 was or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
is this big giant package. Now to move on to Street Fighter 5, we got to shrink it back down.
That's the same way we talked about what happened at the NHL when you were.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, when we switched generations. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like then that comes down to whole pricing and everything like that. I don't know I don't know what the answer is to all this. I just feel like now that if you only are relying on gameplay, then people, I mean, I personally feel like you're missing part of your game. And if like the same thing with like those kind of walking simulators, like if you're just relying on story, you're missing the gameplay aspect of your game. So yeah, your game's only $20. If your game doesn't look so good, you're missing the art. You know what I mean? It's like all these sort
Yeah.
of pillars, and as soon as you start pulling them away, unless you do something like extraordinary with that single pillar, I think people are just kind of expecting more.
Sadly, I think you just killed my point with that. I was going to bring up Nintendo, because Nintendo, for the most part, is a strictly gameplay company
I wouldn't say that. They got some lovely characters in theory.
who are fleshed out, of course, right? Like, because Mario has a backstory, and Link is random boy from every single game.
Yeah.
But you kind of killed it with that last one, where Nintendo stands on such a strong gameplay pillar.
Yeah.
The rest doesn't matter. You just have fun with Nintendo games, and when you buy a Nintendo game, it's going to be fun.
That's true, but we've talked about before how much we don't like how expensive Nintendo games are.
Well, no. I have no problem with Nintendo games being $60. I have an issue with them never going on sale.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes more sense. Yeah, so I mean, you can get away with it if you're Nintendo. I think you could probably get away with it if you have like a beloved set of characters or something like that. Well, I guess Street Fighter would have that, so you think they might get away with it.
And again, I think it all comes down to expectations. At this point, if I buy a Mario game, I'm not expecting a Witcher level story.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting everybody's gone to the Rapture world building. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting this, and I think that's what it comes down to. A Street Fighter 5 is people had different expectations.
Yeah.
Capcom went, we're gonna make you the best damn fighting game ever, and people went, man, this is the best damn fighting game ever. Where's the rest of it?
Yeah.
And I think it's just those expectations. But overall, I think to me, gameplay is important, but you can overshadow it. And if your game is good enough, your game is unique enough, your game is interesting enough, it has that hook in some other form, one of those other key components, it's enough to drive it for a while. And I think if you manage length,
Yeah.
like you talked about with Walking Similars, like we talked about with Xenoblade. Xenoblade, 20 hours, best damn game I've ever played. Metal Gear Solid 5, 20 hours, phenomenal game.
Yeah.
But those hooks lose when you start to draw it out and you start to realize, okay, this really is Xenoblade. It's really just a big, awesome environment I'm walking around.
Yeah.
And Metal Gear Solid, okay, this really is just a good gameplay piece where I'm doing the same thing really, really well over and over again without any interconnection to anything else.
Yeah. I don't think I could put it better.
Probably not.
I guess we can just wrap it up with some really quick news. Real quick news. So I think the first thing to start is because we talked a little about this last weekend with was it Quantum Break was being announced for PC, and now Gears of War Remastered PC is coming. It was leaked somehow. I think there's something like the requirements, the hardware requirements were leaked or something like that, and that's how people knew. I don't know. I don't know how much more I can add to the conversation, but this is just sort of like, okay, what do you guys?
It's an interesting follow up to last week.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see, okay, now not only are we releasing one of our tentpole franchises this year, one of our big exclusives this year on PC, we're going to start bringing in the other stuff. And Gears of War, I think we've specifically mentioned, like, I think one of us, I don't remember who, says, I don't think we will see Gears of War 4 on PC.
Yeah.
I think that was exactly what we said last week. Yeah. And here we are a week later, Microsoft going, Gears of War Remastered, PC, it's coming. Which to me signals, guess what? Gears of War 4, it's coming as well.
Yeah. I feel like Halo will probably always stay on it, but I'm just really curious, like what they're doing. I'm hoping E3 actually. Now that I think about it, I hope E3 clears up a lot of this, like what they're trying to do with the Xbox brand, because I feel like Xbox are trying to turn more into Steam now. Like a console / PC Steam like platform, which is interesting. So it kind of puts them like out of competition with Sony. So like they're no longer a direct competitor with Sony, which they might be doing. So
I think it seems like they're going to start trying to fight like a war on two fronts. You've got Sony in the console space, Steam in the PC space. Let's see if we can knock them both down by putting eggs in both baskets and hoping somebody comes to us and we slowly build this empire.
I don't think they're trying to take them down per se, but I think that there's like, well, now we're in two markets, so if we can do half as good as like PlayStation, we can do half as good as Steam, and then we'll all even out. Kind of thing.
We'll be just as good as everyone else.
Yeah, but I mean, I mean that makes sense because the Xbox brand, from what I understand, has lost money, like a tremendous amount of money, like years before. I gotta imagine it's pretty profitable now, but I know they put a lot of money and sunk a lot of money into that. So I can see why they're trying to just get a different market. Like they tried to get a different market with Kinect. Like that was their plan. That it didn't work out so well with Xbox One. And that's kind of going to our next story. That's what they're doing with HoloLens. Like they're pinpointing different markets. Like they're not going after Sony's gamer market anymore. I mean, they are, but they aren't just doing console gamers and whatever console gamers entails. So the news with HoloLens, like, so they're not directly competing with VR. They're saying that it's consumer ready now, which I think is actually really interesting. They want. Basically, what the concept was is that they were worried because Kinect had failed so hard with the Xbox One. Not failed so hard. It just was not the success they wanted to be, to the point where they removed it from like future bundles. That they're now hesitant to release this thing. But like, so what they're doing, they're kind of holding on to it, just waiting for the market to sort of show up. Maybe when more of these VR headsets show up, so they can say, "Hey, this is how we're different."
I like the quote that he said, which was pretty much, yeah, it's consumer ready, and yeah, we know what it is, and yeah, it's done. But they're worried about this Kinect because Kinect came out and nobody supported it.
Oh yeah,
you just have a $100 camera sitting on your TV, going, "Well, that's looking at me."
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of his thing: is, you know what? There's no reason to rush this thing out and go, "Here, you spent X number of dollars for this. You can wave at it and you can play our one like weird version of whatever on it, and then you can sit and stare at it."
Yeah, when I was like seeing the HoloLens thing, I was like, "Oh, that's really cool for the job I do, not for something to play games on." So like, I feel like there's like a huge market for this in the industries. I think a lot of this is kind of getting what I do a little bit. They do this thing called like BIM design, in which they're trying to basically 3D model entire buildings or entire products, and then you can see all the components of products come together. It's like a perfect thing for that. So you can see all those components coming together in sort of like a real world environment, quote unquote. So I think it's really cool for the industry. I think that's probably what they're going to do, and they realize like, well, we can compete with all these VR companies in the consumer base, or like I think the current product's like $3,000 or something like that. We can just market this to designers and engineers and those sort of people, which I think is actually probably I think that's actually more interesting than trying to fit a video game into this.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things where it's gone, man, we developed something for video games, but that's not the application that's going to be best suited for it. And hopefully somebody realizes that before they start hemorrhaging money out of any of this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always feel like when people are like, "Oh, I can't." This is like a very high school mentality. So this is like a mentality I dropped a long time ago. But I think there's like a lot of I want my not that I just want my console to win the console war. I want the other guys to lose. It's like no. It's like healthy competition was what made the PS3 a good console was because it was a shitty console at first, and Xbox 360 was just straight up better. And then it took the PS3 a lot of fighting and a lot of games to get back to like even just being on par with the Xbox 360. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of interested what just in Xbox and Microsoft is doing in general with all this new how they're approaching games because they're definitely trying to do something different. I don't know how well it'll pay off though.
Yeah, I think they took their hits from the initial Xbox One launch, and I don't know sales numbers off the top of my head, but I mean they are trailing across the board, and it's interesting to see how they're going to adjust. Like you mentioned, PS3 put in some major adjustments towards the later half of its life cycle to really try and catch back up, and I think this is the beginning of Microsoft's. We came out of the box, we didn't do so well. Okay, second round, let's how do we get back in there? How do we catch back up? We might not be able to eclipse it, but how do we come back to owning that big chunk of market share?
Yeah. And I don't think they care about that market share. I think they just care about a market share at this point. Which
In the
sounds
end,
bad,
it's
but I
just
just
all
think
about the money.
but I just thinking like, if we can't beat them, go somewhere else. Like why not?
Yeah, there's plenty of places that want stuff like this.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the Darksliders podcast with Doug and Brad. You can follow us on Twitter at Darksliders_POD. Whatever you're listening to us on, you can subscribe. If you guys like, if you're listening to us on YouTube, you can subscribe on iTunes. If you're on iTunes, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. We're also on a bunch of other stuff. Pretty much any place you can find podcasts, you can find us. So that's Darksliders podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.